Welcome everybody to another exclusive Brutalitopia interview. This, of course, is Mick, and we have a very special interview this time around, kind of showcasing the wonders of the internet. I am talking with, is it okay if I call you Catherine?
Yeah.
In the interview? Okay, cool. Katherine Shepard, more commonly known as Sylvaine, all the way from France, coming to us today. So, Catherine, thank you so much for taking the time out.
Oh, it's my pleasure, really.
It was fun figuring out the time slots for this interview being 7 hours apart and everything, but we made it work. So just to get a kind of a sense for you, so you were born in America, actually, correct?
Yeah, I was born in San Diego, California, actually.
And how long did you live there for?
Not more than, I think it was a year or something before we moved back to Oslo.
Okay. So is your family originally from Oslo?
My mother, she's actually from, closer to Trondheim, which is kind of, middle of Norway. And my father is also from San Diego. So, long story short, basically, my father met my mother while he was on tour in Scandinavia.
Okay.
And after a bit back and forth, they decided to, settle down really in Norway because they felt that the society there was a bit easier to deal with than in the US.
Okay, so you had been, even though you moved to Oslo when you were very young, you still visited back and forth between America and Oslo?
Oh, not so much, actually. That's a bit of a shame. But I've been back a few times to visit, because I have two sisters over there, or half-sisters. So, and they are located in Arkansas, so it's not exactly the same place. But
right.
I haven't been back that much, unfortunately. I would like to go back more in the future.
Okay. And what's the connection with Paris? Because I know that's kind of another big town that's at least linked for you in your profiles with Sylvaine and everything.
Yeah, that's correct. I would say maybe a year or a bit year and a half ago or something, I kind of started spending more and more time in Paris. So I kind of consider that I moved to Paris.
Okay.
Even though I tend to divide my time a bit between Oslo and Paris.
Mm-hmm.
And I moved like many other people for reasons, personal reasons. And basically it was just the best option for me at the time.
Okay, got it. I kind of wanted that background because I was curious. This is kind of transitioning into, you growing up in your musical tastes. Did those different kind of cultural backgrounds, how did those mix together and play into what you ultimately, listened to at a young age and, took a liking to, I guess you could say?
Yeah, of course, since both my parents have been into music their whole life, and my father was a musician and my mother was working with music on a more business side. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of music in our house, basically. Sure. And the first genre or type of music I got into as a kid, I guess, was kind of the classic rock style.
Okay.
And I'm not even sure where that came from because my father, he's been a lot into jazz, I would say. Mm. Free jazz, completely crazy stuff. He'll play a song for 1.5 hours and
it's just completely free form stuff.
yeah, exactly. It's really cool. And my mother, she's maybe more on the rock side. So, but yeah, I suppose in one way they influenced me, but in another way I kind of found my own way when it came to what I was listening to. Mm-hmm. One thing that was very good was, obviously it was very accepted by them right away that I got into music, and then I chose to kind of pursue that career choice, if you want to call it that.
Sure.
So, and one more thing that's very interesting between the difference of the kind of US mindset and the Norwegian mindset when it comes to music is I know in Norway it's quite conservative, and you're kind of taught that you're not supposed to think that you're anything special,
Sure.
It's kind of a part of the Norwegian thing, you shall not think that you're someone. Mm-hmm. And in the US, I feel it's much more open-minded, and people are allowed to dream a bit more and stuff like that. So I think both my parents were more maybe supportive and just reach for the sky, do what you want. You should definitely just go for it with both feet, jump in.
Very cool. So what was your first encounters with heavier music, whether that be metal or even harder rock? How did that come about?
I would say it transitioned from this kind of classic rock into hard rock when I was maybe 15. Mm-hmm. And then when I was 16, I think moved more into like metal territory.
Okay.
And I remember one of my first loves, which is, I mean, it's kind of somewhere between like metal and goth and doom. It was Type O Negative.
Oh, sweet, yeah.
And it's still one of my favorite bands. I just absolutely adore this band, and they have influenced me quite a bit as an artist. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and from there, actually, I followed some of the bands they were listening to at the time, and I discovered like the whole shoegaze and dream pop scene. And I also went more like into the black metal scene, and yeah, that's kind of from I was 16, I would say.
Okay. So how soon after that would you say that, I mean, did that during that time when you were first hearing metal, did like you suddenly have like a, you know, like a divine intervention that was like, this is what Sylvaine could sound like? Like how did the project kind of come together after hearing some of these heavier influences?
Well, for example, like I mentioned, Type O, one thing I always loved about their sound was kind of this duality between very catchy and beautiful melodies and very like lush atmosphere, mm-hmm. but yet it's quite very heavy and very dark in a way. And I was always drawn to this kind of thing in music. And I kind of knew, I guess, even like with the bands I was doing before I did Sylvaine, because I did like a lot of small things that, I mean, nobody has heard of, but still.
Were those all solo things as well?
Were they also what?
Were they all solo projects as well, or were they actually like bands?
No, they were actually bands, like actual bands where we were like 4 people, 5 people writing music together and stuff. So, and even with those bands, I kind of wanted this sound, you know, like between like a duality between the harsh and the beautiful in a mm-hmm. sense.
Sure.
Although with my past bands, they kind of never ended up going in that direction. I always kind of veered off into like a more like progressive metal or something like that. Okay. So when I decided, or I kind of started to believe that it might be possible for me to do a solo project, I kind of already knew that was the sound I was going for. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you could possibly say that when I discovered this type of bands and this kind of sound, I was like, whoa, this is something that really hits home.
Yeah. So what was, now I know you, for your latest album, Neige from Alcest was involved on some of the drumming. Yeah. How did you, like, meet him, and how did he become kind of involved with, you know, the process of, you know, crafting Sylvaine?
Well, actually, I mean, he only played session drums on the album. He came like after everything was written.
Oh, okay, so he wasn't actually involved in the...
No. He's been very supportive, like, since I released my first album, but he wasn't involved in any writing. I even wrote the drum parts for him. Okay. But we worked them out kind of together to find like his, to, you know, capture his style as a drummer and everything. Okay. So, but yeah, I met Neige in I think it was 2012 or something, late 2012, at a show they had in Sweden, of all places. Okay. And I kind of somehow ended up like backstage, and we just kind of started speaking, and after that we stayed in touch because we kind of had a lot in common. Mm-hmm. And I showed him like the very first demos for Sylvaine, which was songs from my first album. Mm-hmm. And he actually was like, oh, this is quite cool. And since then he started to like follow the project, and I released my first album. He was very supportive, and then they decided to bring me on the South American tour they had in 2014. Mm-hmm. And even like on that tour we started speaking about that it could be cool maybe to try to do a collaboration, and like I know he wanted to get back into playing drums. So I was lucky, like it was right at the good moments, you know.
Right time, right place.
Yeah, exactly. Lucky for me. Yeah. So yeah, that's basically what happened. And then since I was kind of already starting to get into the whole like Paris mode, it became very easy because he's also in Paris. Yeah. So yeah, we just started kind of working out the drum parts, and we found right away that the styles fit really well. So we just thought, fuck it, we're gonna do it.
Yeah, right. And I find it interesting too because there are a lot of similarities between your guys' music. Did hearing, I mean, like bands like him, did hearing bands like that kind of solidify what you wanted to do with the project? I know we had talked earlier about, you know, what kind of influenced you from the start, but did, you know, hearing like bands like Alcest kind of like solidify that picture of what Sylvaine could be?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. Like when I discovered Alcest, which was probably in 2012 as well, actually, or 2011. Mm-hmm. I really instantly felt the connection to the music, and I was like, okay, so yeah, apparently this is something, this is a good way to express some of the feelings I have, because apparently there's other bands doing similar stuff, and I don't know, it was just, like you said, it made it more, it made me realize more maybe that this was definitely the way to go for me.
Sure. So about the new album, Wistful, which I think is fantastic, by the way.
Thank you so much.
What was unique about, obviously we talked about Neige kind of doing drums and everything, but what else was unique about recording and the process of this album as opposed to your first album and your demos?
Well, for the first album, I mean, at the time I was going to the university. I got to get my bachelor's degree in musicology. Mm-hmm. So I had a full equipped great studio available that I used to record my whole first album by myself, everything by myself.
Oh wow!
Didn't have much prior experience.
Okay.
But I kind of learned by doing, which I'm very happy that
That's the best way to learn.
Yeah, pretty much. I think so. And it was it was a golden opportunity, so I kind of
had to take it.
So for Wistful, I did half of the album myself, once again in the same studio and engineering everything and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then I had the chance to do the 3 last songs that I wrote for the album in a studio in France called Druden House.
Okay.
So if you don't know, this studio is also linked to Alceste or some bands like Aluk Tudolo or Les Discrets or stuff like this.
Okay. Yeah.
And I heard of the studio through them, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had a chance to work with Benoit Roux, which is the engineer there, and that was just really great. The studio is located in a desolate area, mm-hmm. Very nice. The guy is super talented, super nice. He really understood what I wanted for the album. Mm-hmm. So that was very cool to work with him. Also very cool to bring in Neige on drums, because that was a new impulse, because my father was doing the first album and half of Wistful as well.
Oh, cool.
And also one more thing that was a bit different from the first one was the fact that I had string instruments also, violin, viola, and cello mm-hmm. on the last track, which I recorded myself, which was also quite cool. Yeah,
there were certainly moments that felt more kind of, I guess, lush, you could say, just kind of more full.
Yeah, that's true. I think there was, in one way I felt that this album had less layers, but in the end it sounds more dreamy, so I guess certain songs were more to the point and certain songs were way more ambient, like the last track or Saudade or stuff like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So in terms of the name Sylvaine, from what I researched, that kind of means of the forest, kind of relating to the forest. How important is nature to Sylvaine? Is that kind of the ambiance that you're trying to set? Is that kind of setting?
Well, I don't know about that, but I just know that nature has been a very important part of my life since I was a kid, basically. I've been lucky enough to grow up in a city that's super close to nature. Mm-hmm. Just 5 minutes from my house, you have 4 different forests that you can choose to take hours-long walks in. Mm-hmm. So I used to kind of go there as a shelter in a way, to really get in touch with whatever was going on inside me, or when I felt like I needed comfort or something, I would go to the forests around my house.
So that would kind of be your process in a way in coming up with musical material, is just kind of venturing out.
Yeah, in a way I would say it's definitely been a big inspirational source to me. So that's why I also wanted to include this word in the name of the project, because it has indeed been very important to me through my life.
Very cool.
It's a homage somehow.
Yeah. Does the project itself kind of serve as kind of taking this a little further, does it serve as an outlet for something for you? Because I know with typically with metal bands that I've talked to before, some of them or a lot of them actually are kind of just to get anger out, just to release this level of energy that you normally wouldn't be able to in everyday life. I wouldn't say anger is necessarily what you're trying to get out, but is there something kind of related in that way that you're trying to emote through the music?
Yeah, definitely. For me, like you said, it's not anger, but I think, for example, on Wistful, you had a lot of frustration that came off as more aggressive than my first album. Mm-hmm. And I mean, what I'm trying pretty much more or less to do with Sylvaine is I use it as an audio diary in a sense, like many other artists.
Okay.
So it's basically an outlet for whatever feelings and issues that I don't really know how to deal with in other ways, or I find difficult to deal with in other ways. So I just try to express it through melodies and words to the melodies. That's pretty much it.
Cool. Yeah, it's really interesting to think of how. I think there was this one quote. I'm misquoting it a lot, but I think it's like music can express what words cannot. Sometimes it's just it's really cool.
It's really true. It's a separate language that just is beyond words, basically.
Right. So you got the new album out. Are there any future plans for you in terms of it might be too soon to talk about new music, but maybe touring or anything of that nature?
Oh no, I mean I have like 4 or 5 songs for the third album done already.
Not wasting any time.
No, I have to keep working. I like to keep the ball rolling so it doesn't stop. I get stressed when I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, no, I have the same feeling.
Yeah, so no, but I have a feeling that the writing process for this one is going to be a bit longer because I really wanted to have the cream of the crop, really the best of the best songs. So I'm going to try to make as much songs as I can, and then pick the best, basically, from that. Which is, the way you should work. But sometimes, for my past albums, I just knew right away that this song is going on this album or whatever. But at the moment, I'm still I'm trying and seeing what's going to work and trying to write as much stuff as I can. Okay. So yeah, that's basically working on the third album, taking the time to do that, and also preparing. We have one show in Romania.
Okay, cool.
Coming up soon, and then we're speaking to our booking agency about a tour later this year or beginning of next year. So
have you toured very much?
No, I haven't. Not at all. I've done a lot of shows through my life, with different bands and shit like that in Norway and different places in Norway, but never toured really, except for the South American tour, which was quite bizarre.
Sure. Have you managed to have the same people as your lineup for the band for those tours? Or is it kind of just a random array of people that managed to fill in for you?
Sorry, I'm not sure I quite understood the question.
So do you, when you tour, do you have the same people with you on the tour as your band, or do you just kind of have random people for each show and each tour that you have done?
Well, what I would prefer is to have the same people, just because I think you get this kind of feeling of a family or a feeling of a group that's it's better than just having random people to tour with each time. For the South American tour, I was alone, of course, because it was an acoustic tour.
Oh, okay, got it.
So, but for the upcoming shows now, I have a lineup.
Okay, that's cool.
Specific lineup that I've been working with for a year or something now.
Okay.
So, nothing is set in stone, so we'll see what the future brings, because obviously the situation that I'm asking them to go into is to enter a band where they're not participating in making the music at all, they're just playing parts they're given. Right. Which is a bit shitty, I know.
Sure.
Yeah, and also the fact that not everyone has the time actually to just let go of everything.
Yeah, it's definitely a big undertaking.
Yeah, exactly. So, but for now, yeah, I have 3 guys, and I hope that we can stick together because they're really cool and sounds quite good, I think. So, yeah. Okay,
very cool. Well, we like to end off interviews on fun questions. So, speaking of touring, if Sylvaine could play, whether it be a tour or just one show with, I'll give you 2 other bands of your choosing, who would they be?
2 other bands. Okay, that's a really good question. A tough one. Well, that would be maybe a strange match, but maybe either. Oh darn, that's really hard. Well, first, I would have loved to play with Typo, but that's kind of difficult now because.
Yeah, well, I can't necessarily do that anymore.
That's kind of a lost cause, I suppose. I would love to play with a band for example, Explosions in the Sky.
Okay, yeah, that would.
But we would be way too metal, but still, in a dream world.
No, it would still fit.
That would be really cool. and also a band like Seguros, of course.
Oh, sure.
Man.
Or maybe Slowdive. I don't know.
Yeah, everybody will be.
It's so hard.
Everybody will be really sedated by the end of that show.
Yeah, I suppose that might.
I would still go, though.
Oh, that's cool. Good to know.
Well, Katherine, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview. And everybody, check out Sylvaine. New album, Wistful, out now. And hopefully see some new material out as well very soon. And hopefully see you on the road sometime. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you very much for listening and for enduring my horrible answers. And I hope to see you on tour really soon.
All right, sounds good.